Puedo escuchar.
Live. Open the focus. We have these visitors. So, like, yeah. It's Joel Pennington, and this is just. There's a conversation. Yeah. This is what we're about to get back to yours.
Are we still muted or are we?
No.
Oh, right.
Oh, you've been to Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can I get going?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the August 26th meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5 Transportation and Environment Committee. I'm David Sigmund, Chair of the committee, joined by Samir Lavingia, Vice Chair. Any items voted on at this meeting will appear at the full Community Board 5 board meeting to be held on Thursday, September 12th. We have 3 items on the agenda today. The first. There we go, big quorum. The first is an application from Eagle Bus Lines for a sightseeing bus stop. To be located at 7th Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets. We then have 2 open but internal items, review actually of the committee process for reviewing bus stop applications. And then we have a discussion of a number of topics that were raised by members of the committee that deal with a range of transportation and environmental issues, and so we'll review. We'll just ask if we go around the room, if everybody could identify themselves.
I can start. I'm Samir Lavingia, Vice Chair of the Transportation Environment Committee. Christopher Desire.
Ed Lager.
Neil Miller.
James Michael South.
I'm Zool.
Paola Morales.
Tiffany and Annie, do you want to?
Yep. Sorry, Tiffany. Here.
Hey, Annie.
Joel?
Hey, this is Joel Maxman.
Okay. Before we jump into the agenda, are there any members of the public or any members of the committee that have new business that they'd like to raise? We're doing this first so that people don't have to wade through all of the agenda items if they're here to raise any new topics. So if anybody has something besides the Eagle Bus Lines that they'd like to raise with us, now would be the time to do it. Okay. Before we start on this first item, I'll just walk through what the order of business is. The applicant, Eagle Bus Lines, will walk us through their bus stop application. And we issued a questionnaire, which they responded to. They can walk us through that as well. Members of the committee can then ask questions or make comments. After that, we'll take comments from the public. There's no time limit on individual speakers, but we do ask that you keep things succinct and avoid repetition. I know we had multiple emails from residents of the Adlon adjacent to this location. And, you know, we don't necessarily have to hear from everybody, but if you want to, we'll poll the audience after the first couple of comments to get a sense of where people are on the issue. After the public comment is closed, then we'll enter the committee business session where only committee members will discuss the matter with no further input from the applicant or the public unless requested by the chair. And finally, if appropriate, we will craft a motion and take a vote. After the last agenda item, we'll adjourn the meeting. So just to set up our first item, in the middle of July, we received notice from the New York City DOT that Eagle Bus Lines, doing business as New York Luxury Travel, had requested a pickup and drop off location, as I mentioned, on 7th Avenue between 53rd and 54th, closer to 53rd, in front of 826 7th Avenue on the west side of the street. The stop, well, the current parking regulation is no standing. There is an existing bus stop for Gray Line New York Tours, and the stop will be shared by both companies. the request was for 5 daily pickups, Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and 5:30 p.m. That's pickups from the location. And then 4 drop-offs, Monday through Sunday, 2:30 p.m., 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. The service is entirely within New York City. We have a representative of Eagle on the call with us today.
Yes.
We received a number of letters, as I said, predominantly from the condominium at 200 West 54th Street. And in fact, we took up this location in December of 22. I guess the Transportation Committee meeting was the prior month in November. And part of what we're going to want to talk about today is whether any of the facts have changed from the time that we denied that application, which was a different operator, to today. And so with that as the intro, I'll ask the representative to identify herself and if you can walk us through your application and the questionnaire that you provided to us.
Hi, how are you doing? My name is Paola Morales. I represent Eagle Bus Lines, DBA New York Luxury Travel. We've been in business with Eagle for quite some time, since 2011. We decided to get into, we have been operating tours, but through different operators, just do the transportation. So we have a vast experience how to work through the pickup and drop off in New York City. And now we decided to go through the next steps and operate the tours ourselves. And as I said, we do have experience. We have been in business for quite some time. And I'm waiting to see if the application will be approved, basically. We don't have that many tours that we are operating right now. We are just operating 3 tours, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and 9:15 so far. The other tours are not being operated yet. As we are we are in the marketing process and all of that. So we really have been full-time operating all the tours.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions, I'm ready to answer all the questions.
Yeah, let me start off and then people can jump in. So on your application, it says that all of your ticket sales are online.
Yes.
So are there people at this location selling tickets, or is it like hop on, hop off? Are people? No. So
there is nobody selling tickets at the location at all. Everything is sold through our website, Get Your Guide, Viator, and Civitatis. So nothing is sold on the street.
And would people be waiting at this location for these buses to arrive to get picked up?
Basically, yes. Most of the time people arrive there like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before, and the vehicles arrive like, let's say if the pickup is 8:30, the vehicle is there 8:20, 8:25, get loaded and depart. We try to depart on time.
Is this morning or evening?
It's
morning.
Morning, yeah.
Morning.
6 a.m. I don't know that I would.
We haven't done any 6 a.m. yet. We haven't done it any 6 a.m. We've been done at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and 9:15. That's it so far.
And so what types of buses are these, and how many people would you typically have on each trip?
The smaller vehicle we have is a 32-passenger vehicle, and that's the one that we've been using. We have 40 and we have 48-passenger vehicle, but we haven't get to that capacity yet. So the vehicle that we've been operating is just the 32 passengers. Is the Gretsch vehicle. The vehicles are new, 2021 and newer, and that's the vehicles that we've been using.
What size are these? How long?
32 passenger is the vehicle that we have been using. We have not used yet the 40 and the 48.
Thirty-one.
32 passenger, but we haven't filled the capacity, so there hasn't been that many people waiting on the stops.
And is this the, where else do you stop then along the route?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Do
you
You
mean
make
in New
multiple
York?
stops on Seventh Avenue? Are we the first?
No, you're the first. This is just one stop. Just pick up there and then go.
I see, okay. Any other,
I guess what's the route? Like where does it go? What's the route or where does this go? I don't, not necessarily.
So
this-
for example, let me tell you one. One of the tours is 8:30 in the morning. It's called Contrast of New York. It goes to the Bronx. From the Bronx, it goes up down New York and then goes to the Bronx. From the Bronx goes to Brooklyn, and then Brooklyn cross I believe it's George Washington Bridge, and then goes up and drop off. The people does not get off in New York City. They just stay on the bus the whole time with the tour guide, and they come back. The only time that they get off is on is in the museum in Queens, where is the big plaza, and there is a parking space inside the plaza, and they get up to take pictures over there, and they come back on the bus, and then turn and just go around that area. That's the Contrast of New York. The 9:15 tour, it goes from New York straight to Jersey Gardens, to the mall at the Mills in Elizabeth, New Jersey. You drop them there, and then you pick up at 2:00 and get them back to the same bus stop in the afternoon. And the other, the 9:15, which is called the Big Apple, is approximately 6 hours. The same thing is on the bus. The driver goes up to go through the Times Square, show them the library, show them the Grand Central Terminal, and then keeps going down through the Fifth Avenue. I think, yeah, keep going out to the Fifth Avenue, and then goes all out down to see the Statue of Liberty from the Manhattan side, and then finish there and goes back to the drop off at the bus stop. It's exactly 6 hour service.
Okay, thank
The
you.
Contrast of New York is the 4 hours. And the one for Jersey Garden, it finished at 2:00, it drop off back approximately 3:00.
and did you specifically ask for this location as the starting point, or did you pick a range of possible locations and DOT assigned this one to you? How did you end up in this location?
We've been operating, as I said, we've been operating quite a long time. The mother of the company, we started business working like in 2002. The business was registered in 2011, but long before we have experience. So we have done it in the same area. We have picked up in different locations in New York City, and we pick up this location because it's easy for the buses to park and then just pick up and go. And then I actually put a couple more options when I did the application. I don't have it in front of me, but I did a couple more options because the ladies told me that I have to pick up at least 2 more.
Mhm.
But I don't
Do you
have it in front of me, sir. The other 2 that I went through the map and I put it in there.
Okay. I guess that's kind of the core of the question is, is this an important location for you? Or if you were a block north or a block south or whatever, would that make a difference to your operation?
It's easy because we just turn right out of there and get out of the thing, and it's easy to move to get in there and come out of there. That's why we pick up that location, especially when you drive buses. I drive bus myself, so we try the way where it's big and wide to turn, and it's easy to move to don't get that on the traffic area.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. So that's it for the committee. We can go to the public. If you could introduce yourself, and if you can turn your camera on as well. Meredith,
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry, I don't see where my camera is at the moment, but so I had a question. I understand the ease of making a right-hand turn from Seventh Avenue onto 53rd Street, but is there some reason why the pickup can't be on 53rd Street between 7th and Broadway, where it's only commercial buildings on both sides, as opposed to being on 7th Avenue directly below residence, apartment windows, just below or just above the bus stop. In addition, there is a sidewalk shed that extends into the sidewalk, which greatly compromises the ability to walk down that sidewalk. And I know this because obviously I live there, and it is a very tight spot. And then when there's additional people gathering and waiting for a bus, that creates an additional hardship on the pedestrians. So is there some reason why the bus stop cannot be on the side street?
are you able to answer that question, Paolo?
Oh, yeah,
or,
me? Oh, yes. I actually didn't notice, honestly, that there was residential over there because there is a like shark and snack and shacks right in there. There is a cafeteria, places in front. All of that area is basically commercial. I honestly didn't see any residential. I guess I didn't see up that there is residential on top of the business on the bottom, and there is no problem if it's on the turn. I don't see any problem if I could get on the turn, but because I saw there is a bus stop already in there for, I believe, as you said, Greyhound or somebody like that, I didn't see any difficulty, and it's not like we're gonna be standing there for hours. It's maybe the most the vehicle will wait is 10-15 minutes because we have to depart on time. That will be my answer for the question. I didn't honestly see any residential on top because, as I said, there is burgers, there is cafeterias, there is Chase, there is hotel in front of there. All of that area is basically commercial on the bottom. I don't know on top.
Okay. Russell, you can go ahead, and if you can identify yourself, please.
Hi, thank you. I don't see, I think the app doesn't have an option for me to turn the camera on.
Okay.
I was present at the last meeting when the board, when we spoke to you about the last bus stop that petitioned for this space. All the same issues still apply. We're in fact a co-op, not a condo, so a majority of the people in the building own our apartments. And the biggest issue is the standing bus, right? So the noise that the buses make while they're waiting there, and then the people standing there cause congestion, which causes more noise. So all the issues are still the same as it was a couple of years ago. The only thing that's changed actually, and I'm not sure if the board realizes this, is that across the street on the eastbound side, they've put in a special needs school in the building on the corner there. I don't know the exact building number, but it's on the corner of 53rd and 7th. And so in the morning, there are an enormous amount of small school buses that are dropping off special needs kids and then picking them up again between 3 and 4 o'clock. So it's become quite a congested area on 7th Avenue right there at certain times of the day. So in addition to all the other traffic and everything going on, you've got quite a bit of school buses, a lot of aides walking children in wheelchairs across the street, trying to get through that area. So putting another pickup and drop off right there would greatly cause problem. If it's only 3 or 4 times a day, the corner has become quite congested. As we stated in the last meeting, the simple solution is to move it down on 7th Avenue to between 52nd and 53rd, which is a purely commercial stop. And there's buses that come and go there. If you put it on 53rd, you're gonna have an issue there because there's food trucks and there's delivery, there's commercial vehicles that can park on that street. So depending on the time of day, there may not be curb space, and then you're gonna have a bus double parking over there, and it's gonna cause even more traffic.
I'm sorry to jump in, and yes, you are correct. And actually, I was going to mention that the whole summer, basically, but we don't have any authority or anything to say that. We just try to accommodate the people and just go a little bit down, park the vehicle close to Chase and just get them and go. But the whole block is being parked with the school buses, and it's something, as I said, we don't have any control. It's just what it is. So we just go with the flow, basically. But that's something different from us. But it's true, the whole block has been blocked. And actually, they park there the whole day, because I have gone a couple of times to New York, and the vehicles, the gentleman who just spoke will say the vehicles don't move. They drop off and they stay there the whole day until they pick up in the afternoon. But I don't have any issues. I said, as you said, the 53rd is also, there is a food truck, which will make difficult. We can turn, but parts, because there is another car in front, it will be car, but it will be, I don't have any issue just going a little bit farther down between 52nd and 53rd, if that will be the case, to be honest.
Hi, it's Colleen from DOT. How are you? Russell raised an interesting point, and I don't know if our bus stop management realize the school that's there. I do know the school because we were very instrumental in giving them the regulations so the buses can pull up there to pick up and drop off the students. It is a school for special needs children, and yes, those children do need assistance getting onto the bus, and it takes a while to do that. It looks like the operator is fine with looking at another location, and we would be amendable to do that if that's the case, and if that would pleases the community board, just so you know.
We asked the DOT person to identify ourselves. Is it visible anywhere?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We're just a technical issue. Okay, Colleen, appreciate that. Is this something we can do here, or Colleen, do you need to talk to other people in DOT, or?
So what I can do, I can let our bus stop management know that there is a location that the community board prefers. If we can survey that location, and I can get back with you in a week or two, if that's fine with the community board.
Yeah, we'll figure out on our side.
So what is that proposed location, or do we just still figure that out? Was
I
it
think-
between 51st and 52nd on
Or
7th
between 52nd and 53rd.
If we were to have a stop on 7th Ave between 52nd and 53rd, I know you said you turn right on 53rd. Would you then go down to 51st and take a right, or what would be
Yes,
your?
exactly. That will be the option. Exactly. Just go down 52nd, then go down to 51st and turn out of the area.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, if Colleen is still with us, I know the applicant doesn't have, but perhaps you do, the two alternatives that she put in for, and if either of those are appealing to the public who are with us tonight, and if you could tell us what those locations are.
I think the applicant might have that information because we look at 3 locations, and based on the information in our site survey, we would normally go, of course, obviously with the most feasible location based on the land use in the area. So I don't have the 2 locations with me at the moment, but I can find that and I can share that with the board. And you can take a look and let us know. Give us your feedback. In the meantime,
I
That
think
would be
the other
helpful.
one of the other options. I'm sorry. I think one of the other options. I'm sorry. I don't have it in front of me neither. It was 52nd and 53rd. That was one of the other options I drove on the application.
I think we would like to know what the exact locations are.
Oh, okay.
yes, definitely. And you know what? I can get that and I will send that to the board and I'll let you know, why the other locations were not considered, why the other two locations were not considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments from?
Thank you very much.
Or,
Yeah, in the meantime, would the board recommend, looking at the other location that the applicant and that the board also consider that might be, a good location? Or do you want to see ahead of time the other two locations before a decision is made?
no, that's fine. I mean, I think the question is just a more specific answer, where exactly is it? I assume it's on the, west side of 7th, but where is it between 52nd and 53rd? And
Mhm.
the usual information you provide us for, for this new location.
Okay. All right, I will find out the other two locations and then I will take back to my colleagues the preference or the location that you just mentioned and that the applicant is fine with as well.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I'm just confirming, can you tell me what that location is again?
Between 52nd and 53rd. It's
52nd
almost
and
in 53rd. I don't remember the
is it on
place.
7th Avenue?
It's on 7th Avenue, yes, madam.
Okay, do you know which side of the street?
In the same side of the street, in the same side of the street as this one, just a
Okay.
block down.
There's a
Okay.
bike lane on the east side. It has to be the west side.
And they're making a right. Could be a through
West
right.
Okay, and confirming that's the location that the community board also prefers. Correct? Okay,
Yeah, I think
great.
that's where we ended up the last time as well, so.
Okay,
Don't we,
all right, great. So I will get information on the two locations and I'll let my colleagues know that the preference is 52nd, between 52nd and 53rd and 7th Avenue on the west side of the street.
Thank you, Colleen.
David, don't we need to post that new location so that the residents and businesses on that particular spot can have an opportunity to express their opinions?
Yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah.
that after the,
Okay.
get this part.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Any other, public comments at this point then? I saw one other hand up. Oh, Suzanne?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, you can hear me.
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Listen, I don't want to be redundant. Russell, thank you for speaking. I'm at the Adlon. I'm on the West 50s board. Colleen, terrific. I did want to speak on behalf of iHope. Obviously, these are young kids. I will tell you that we've been trying to get with Gail to help facilitate those buses. It's not a slam dunk, them finding space on 7th Avenue. Many times they end up on West 54th Street. I think the complications with Gray Line, the area is super congested. I think it's phenomenal that this woman who is the applicant is being so willing to look for other alternatives. I will say that given the fact, I don't know, even just moving it down a block may or may not help. I mean, this school, these kids are dramatically disabled and the buses are really, it's a super congested area, you guys. It's really something we need to get back to Gail with on. And if this bus would consider even other locations outside of the West 50s, I don't want to complicate things and I'm not even, going to get into it, but I would definitely ask to deny this location. And I would 100% recommend you guys look for alternatives. I don't know where this route goes. I don't know why it has to be on 7th Avenue. It's super congested. In my opinion, as a New Yorker, you may want to even find a different location so that people can get on and get off with a little bit of ease and do your route in an area that isn't quite so overwhelmed with Gray Line and disability buses and residents. And that's all I want to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody. I think we're going to take this back into the committee for a few minutes and figure out what the right process is. Any other public comments now? Okay, we're gonna go into business session. Just among the committee. And if there are questions that come up, we may come back to you, Paula, to provide us with any answers, if you can stay on the line.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I would like to say just one more thing. I know the 7th Avenue is congested, but when it comes to buses and when it comes to driver, it's easy just to park instead of getting in the congested streets, 53rd, 51st. To park a bus on those cross the street is very hard. So as a bus driver, we don't want to hit anybody. We just want to park the vehicle where it's simple and easy and without causing any problem, of course, to anybody. That's why we pick up on the avenue, which is wider for a vehicle to move around.
Yeah, and committee, please keep in mind, this is a hop on and hop off bus. It's not an inner city bus that's going to be there for maybe 5 minutes or so, picking up passengers with luggage. It's hop on and hop off.
Yes, thank you very much. That's another thing also, is that we're not going to be there the whole day at all because we have to depart on time to meet the schedule on time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, I mean, I think our discussion is what's the right process here? Either we just defer this until we get the information, post it again, you know, and bring it up at our next meeting, if that works. Otherwise, yeah, we would be doing like a deny unless and specifying, you know, a location, I guess, acceptable to the board, between 52nd and 53rd on the west side of 7th Avenue.
Yeah, I think we got exactly the handle on it. We need that information, so let's defer that until we have it. They have to post once again, as pointed out by Joel. But I have a bigger question just for a moment. It's really not applicable to this kind of tourist bus. We always ask if it's a intercity bus, if they've applied for a berth at the Port Authority. So my question, David, is there any place that's recommended by the DOT for tour buses to meet their passengers?
No, I mean, it's an application process and they, you know, the applicant provides a range of choices. DOT goes back and looks at those. I mean, you know, other times on the committee, we have pushed buses into completely different areas. But mostly that's been, you know, buses that want to be on 42nd Street or something like that, where there's virtually no space. But here there are, you know, bus stops where the schedules work and the space exists and it's a no standing zone. Nobody's supposed to be there anyway. So, you know, the system runs.
Question, just because this is, maybe you have some history on it. Inner city bus stops, DOT always approves. Tour buses, do they always approve as well? Like, you know how there's that history that DOT doesn't think.
Right, I don't think tour buses, I don't know if they fall in the same category.
Got it, okay.
And they wouldn't do the same.
Right.
Yeah.
If we were to approve anything like this, is it possible to do a conditional or a temporary to see the impact of what it actually does?
No, I mean, it's, you know, they have a business to operate, so they're, you know, these things are annually renewable, so in theory, we could, you know, come back. Yeah. I don't think we have our own time period separate from how the permit works. Yeah, so I guess the real question for us is, do we defer and just take this up again next month, abbreviated, or do we do a deny unless, and that way, if, you know, if this information comes back, then the board's already approved it, and they can go ahead.
I would think we'd have to defer because we do need to post these other locations for the public.
I mean, we have, you know, we have in the past when it's, you know, a change in a block where we know that it's commercial use only, we have, you know, done those.
Do we have a quorum to be able to do it?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would be helpful to know why the alternate location was passed up by DOT. Maybe they had some other reason. So getting that would be helpful.
I guess we can get, Colleen, are you still on?
Yeah, I can get the locations for you and share it with the board.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we've had this discussion in the past, you know, all we get is a letter with one location. And we never really understand, well, where else did they look and why was this location picked? So I guess the committee is kind of asking that question in this case, if 52nd and 53rd is acceptable to the applicant, you know, why wasn't that the preferred location in the first place? Was there some
Yeah.
reason why? Preferred location?
Yeah, I would have to go back and check with the team. I mean, I'll get the top 3 locations. I'm sure there has to be reasons why the other 2 locations were not feasible. So let me find out, and I'll share that with Marissa, and she can forward it to the committee.
Okay.
Mhm.
Paula, do you know when you were planning on starting up this operation?
I honestly, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We've
I mean,
been,
the
we've
problem
been waiting, we've been waiting quite a long time. And I
Yeah.
understand the process is New York City is busy, but whenever it's possible, that will be helpful, please.
Yeah, okay. The problem here is that if we just say we're gonna move it to 52nd and 53rd, and then there's a problem with that from DOT, then we have to start all over again anyway. So I think probably the best answer here is get the information for both of us, and we'll take this back up again at our next committee meeting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So next time I will have all the information. I had the other things, but I just didn't think it was going to cause all these troubles.
Welcome to New York.
I love New York. I've been 29 years in New York. So that's okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. So we can go, right?
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks.
I think she's on vacation.
Yeah,
There's palm trees in the back.
that's all. Very nice. Okay. All right, so then the other 2 items are, you know, essentially internal. The process for processing these bus stop applications has been really time consuming in the past, and it prevented us from taking up other business. And so what we tried to do was learn from how the SLAP committee processes liquor license applications and see whether we could apply some of that to these bus stop applications. So of course, the first one is this one, which is like a huge problem. Usually they're not. But so the idea here was that we get the letter from DOT. We have a questionnaire. We kind of used one that pre-existed for this, although we've seen like CB4 has one. It's like the overachiever application. It's multiple pages. It's every possible question that could come up is covered in the questionnaire. And then the applicant would also post as they did here. So similar to SLAP. So we would then review the questionnaire. We would see if we got any public comment back. And then we could decide at that point, do we just typically we're not approving these things. The only thing we're doing is sort of a no comment. So we could no comment it at that point and just move the process along faster. And then in cases like this, where there are, you know, historic issues with the location, there may be issues in the application, in the questionnaire, then we would hold a hearing like we just did. And so the idea was to move these things along and give the committee more time to focus on other more issue-oriented work. So I raised this with Brad, and he's asked us to come to the executive committee meeting and talk about it. And also for us to take a look at the form of questionnaire. I think we circulated that. If we didn't, we will. And if the committee wants to take a look at, we can send our questionnaire form and the CB4 questionnaire form. And the idea would be for us to have an official CB5 form of this questionnaire that's been approved by the committee and that the board has seen. And then that'll be our process going forward. Yeah.
Have we talked to the co-chairs of their transportation?
No, just saw this recently.
But yeah, I think it would be worth while, I think there is value to having separate questionnaires, but I think sometimes when you have different forms for different community boards, it makes it hard for applicants. So as much as possible, if we can have it be as similar as possible to the other community boards, I think that would be
Yeah.
also less work for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a good point. It's just the scale of it. It is 2, 4, 6, 7, 6 or 7 pages long.
I guess we have to read it.
Yeah. Oh, and then
Details.
you had raised, rather than filling it out by hand, we would do some kind of Google form so that we have all of these in the same place. So, yeah, so we'll circulate both our abbreviated efficient form and the CB4 form, and we'll take it from there. And then we'll take it back. We'll discuss the concept at executive committee, whenever that is, next week. And then we'll plan on coming back to the board with a new package.
Okay.
Okay, that one was easy.
David,
Know
just
if you-
one
Sorry, Joel, yeah, go ahead.
one comment. So one of the things that seems to come up just about every time when there's any kind of public objection to a location is that Colleen doesn't have information. I'm sorry she left, but because each time it's, why was this location chosen? Why were those locations not chosen? It's every single one where there's an objection, it's the same questions. And maybe we need to say to DOT, hey, you want to submit this? Submit it with this information. Why'd you pick this spot? What other locations were there? Why did you turn those down?
Yeah.
That
I mean,
just as a
we've done that in the past. I mean, again, I think it's, they have their standard operating procedure. This is the form of the letter, and we're trying to change it. So it may have even been, because we don't really deny them very often. It's only come up a couple of times. So it may have been this prior one where we said the same thing, But yeah, we'll I would think in the final form of this resolution, we would make the request. Good point. Okay, anything else on this topic? All right.
So did we vote on it? Is it?
There's nothing to vote on.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
we'll be
deferring
back.
it, okay.
We'll be back next month. All right, so the next topic is the team assignments that we had circulated. So I printed out because I probably lost. So I wanted to get a sense of kind of where people were on these, whether anything, was accomplished. And did people have comments on the different topics that we had kind of identified? Were there any new things? Are there things that people weren't interested in pursuing? So maybe the best thing to do is just step through each of the different teams and the topics. And I don't know that I have a specific goal here other than to see how it's going and see if we want to make any changes at this early stage. I will say between Marisa and Josh and Samir and myself, we did float some of this to the staff of the electeds that touch our district, and they were very excited at the idea that we're actually starting to look at some of these issues, particularly things where there's current legislation outstanding. They wanted our input, and they appreciated the fact that we were, stepping up to a process like this. So I do think there's a really positive response to our doing it this way. But if other people have had a different experience in the last month, let's talk about that. And it's also, there's a kind of a prioritization question of, what seems to be of most value to the electeds is dealing with the things that are already working their way through the system, where there might be proposed legislation that we should be prioritizing in our review. So if we just want to step through, the mobility team got kind of hammered. We had a lot of stuff come up, which I guess makes sense since we're the transportation committee. But the 4 topics we had there were that there are bills currently circulating in the council for bike lane safety and delivery app rider safety. There is also a rule for battery swapping stations. I don't know if you've seen, but I think a pilot of this was done somewhere in the Bronx. And so you have the ability to come and swap out your battery for a legal battery. And it's a charging cabinet, so you don't have to take it back to your apartment and charge it there, which is a fire hazard. So I think DOT has been looking at rules for that. There's the smart curbs effort, which was done up in Community District 7. And we were trying to raise our hand and say that we were interested in being the next pilot, since our district poses different issues than 7 does. And finally, there was a school street that was approved on Irving Place. And so we wanted to kind of get ahead on that issue and look at, are there other areas where we should be proposing school streets rather than waiting for DOT to send us a letter that it's already done. And I'm not even sure we were aware that that process was ongoing. So this was just a general, area of let's see if we can get ahead of the process instead of behind it. So guys, if you want to jump in, so that's Joel, Tiffany, Ned, and Sam's not with us today.
Yeah, so I'm looking into the smart curb with the DOT, with the pilot. Marisa has contacted them and they said that they haven't committed to the date, but I'm trying to get them at our next meeting to give us the presentation. There's 2 areas that it's on their proposed pilot that is in our district. I don't have the map up, but it's on 14th Street between Union Square West and Broadway, and then 37th between 7th and 8th. So those are the 2 proposed areas in our district that they would want to pilot. So read through everything, but trying to get them at our next meeting to present to us.
Okay, great.
So
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I can do a quick report on, so the 4th item, which I don't think you mentioned, David, was the $5 city bike for students.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I spoke with Lauren Newman, who's at Transportation Alternatives, who's spearheading this. And she basically told me they're not ready to talk to us yet. They're still working on their proposal. They had a draft reso that they sent us, but she said, we're in the process of teaching the young youth committee how to do this and how to present to community boards. And they asked if they could come to our next meeting at the end of September. And I said I would call her back 2 weeks before that meeting in mid-September and see where they are and ask questions. But that's where we left it. I sent an email to people on your email, just explaining.
Yeah, the only question I had was, whenever we do this, does it make sense to have somebody from whoever it is, City Bike or Lyft or the city, who can provide, some sense of whether.
She said that the city is not, they haven't involved anyone from the city yet, and they haven't involved anyone from Lyft yet. They made a similar proposal to Lyft previously, but Lyft wasn't interested. She thinks they might be now, and they're still working on that. So, and I asked those questions because you had raised them, or somebody had raised them in the email. But she said they're still looking into that, and they're hopeful that Lyft might be involved. They have not involved the city yet.
Okay. Any of the other topics or the 2 with the current legislation? Did anybody pick those up? The bike lane and delivery app driver safety and the electric micro mobility device battery swapping station? I don't know how we want to proceed on those. I mean, I think it's, on the battery swapping, there was actual, I think I circulated actual rules that were promulgated, a draft. So, in that case, it's kind of, to the extent we can, review the document and see whether we have any comments on it. Or if we have locations that we would be interested in volunteering for, because it hasn't been rolled out. It's just been a pilot. So it'd be good if we could make progress on that one. And the bike lane, I mean, that's actual, I think, draft, it's an intro. So I think there is draft legislation, which I don't know, Josh, are we able to dig that kind of stuff up?
I can probably find out, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we'll circulate the whatever we find on the two intros. And we can recirculate the rules that were issued, the draft, and see if people have comments on that. And I don't know what you want to do on the school streets, if you guys want to talk internally and see if somebody wants to pick that up. It's kind of a longer term due diligence thing, because we'd actually have to look at like, well, where are schools in our district?
Yeah.
And you know, where do we think a street would be, a school street would be useful, and then probably go talk to the school, you know, as a way of us being kind of the community ombudsman for the issue.
Yeah, I think the only alternative is that if we, for whatever reason, decide that like school streets are de facto good no matter what, then we can just say we approve all school streets.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good.
And perhaps there's someone on the city council education committee that might have a hand on this.
Okay, well, if someone on the team wants to chew on that a little bit, and maybe the answer is what Samir said, that we just, you know, do the background research on what it is and make the statement, but I think it's still worthwhile getting some sense of how many of these are there in the district. You know, where could they possibly be? I don't know if DOT, I'm not sure they get ahead of this until they get a request. I'm not sure how the process works. Maybe.
We used to have an education committee on CB5 that I was on many years ago. And
Right.
I remember that there were very few, at least public schools in our district. There's I think the Onassis High School, and there was maybe one other high school and one or two middle schools. There were very few public schools in our district, but maybe we also are talking about schools like this, the school on 7th Avenue that we just learned about. I don't know.
I don't know that all of them would be appropriate, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 14.
Are those all?
Wow.
They are a mix.
Oh.
What list is that? It's listed schools in the district. There we go.
Oh, cool.
We can circulate this and narrow it down. I mean, you'll see it's a real range.
Mhm.
So, okay, great. Yeah. Anything else for the mobility team? Any other, did anything else come up that you guys were interested in looking at that wasn't on the list, or?
Not yet, not for me.
All right, and I don't, you know, we'll talk to Sam. He said he's in London, but I didn't know if that was like a permanent thing or a temporary thing.
Okay.
So we'll try and get you the resources, since that's where, right now, at least most of the action is there. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think, James, you are the only rep of the E team today. Nancy is out and Bobby's out.
We have not met, so
Okay.
I'm not gonna give a report for all of us, but there are, I mean, I've done research on some of these topics, and I mean, the one I'm particularly most interested in is the generators and
Okay.
fuel-based. I mean, just because I feel like that's something that should just be done, but
I think there's an
And
intro on
There
that one too.
was, I know there was last August, it was introduced and then it was referred to committee and I read that, we weren't reaching out to electeds yet, so I don't know what the next steps are to find out just what's going on with that. But if there's continued legislation, hopefully.
Yeah, we can track it.
Support it or something. But I think at some point I'll collect with the other members of the team and because I do think we would be benefited from having a more clear agenda on environmental stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's job one is
Yeah,
just
that's
since
a
we
bigger
haven't really paid a lot of attention to the subject.
Yeah.
In the committee, like what's the best way to do this?
Yeah. So,
Okay, the
Yep.
bus idling thing, is that a current legislative?
That is a current legislative effort. It has a city council hearing early next.
Okay.
So we haven't done any due diligence on it, so there's no way we would be able to comment now, but after the city council hearing, there's still time before they actually vote on it. So we could take it up at the next meeting. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same,
I'll bring it up.
prioritizing things
Yeah.
that are current. I think we got to that through the borough president's office. Okay,
So yeah, for next meeting. I'll have more information on that.
all right, and I keep updating to the extent there are new items. I throw them onto the list.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, Zool, oh, we lost Christopher.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about Broadway Vision and the Broadway Linear Park Project. Those of you who are new to the committee probably know a little bit about Broadway Vision, but maybe not so much the park project. Broadway Vision is part of what the Department of Transportation is trying to do with Broadway in making it more pedestrian friendly and ultimately making it more environmentally friendly as well. The Broadway Linear Park Project has a much greater future focus. And what they're really discussing is turning Broadway from Union Square, 14th Street, all the way up to Columbus Circle, 59th Street, into a park. And the idea would be, of course, to maintain an emergency lane as that's necessary, and then also be aware of whatever kind of deliveries that would still need to be made. Perhaps all of them can be made from side streets. That's a part of discussion. But the idea, to a large extent, would be beginning to pull up a lot of the concrete and the asphalt and making this much, much friendlier for pedestrians, for parkways, for waterways. We saw a presentation sometime back when not everybody was here yet for the Broadway Linear Park Project. Christopher and I did a walkthrough, but I met separately with Andrew and Catherine from the project, and they would be very interested to do another presentation, either to the committee, to the full board, and they would very much like, and I think it would be advisable if we can bring Department of Transportation people in at that time. One of the things that we've been very concerned about was the introduction of bicycles and how to make that safe both for the bicyclists and for pedestrians. And one of the things that came out of this discussion was the idea that this is a little bit bigger than what had originally been talked about, but an elevated express bike lane, which would be over the emergency lane, which would only have, certain entrances and exits at major routes, and which would allow the street level to be all pedestrian friendly, park friendly, and of course, again, available for emergency lanes. So these are some thoughts that we discussed at quite some length. And there are folks that I've talked to separately, city planners and others who would like to get involved in this. Of course, this is a long-term project. It's a capital project. It would have to involve pretty much all the agencies and the council. And as you and I had noted separately, there are people in the current mayoral administration who might be interested in shepherding a project like that. So really what I want to put forward without Christopher being here, but I think he'd be in agreement, is to organize such a meeting, probably not next month because we're first getting underway, but not too far down the line, possibly in October, if that would be agreeable, and to bring all the different parties in and have a fuller discussion about how this could be moved forward.
Okay.
Just want to point out one thing for the folks who did not see the Broadway Linear Park project presentation was first given. One of the first slides that they give us is a thermal slide of New York. And so you see this cool blue rectangle right in the center of Manhattan, and that's Central Park. And then you see this fiery red line going all the way down, and that's Broadway. And the sad part is that we recognize now there's very little southbound traffic on Broadway anymore. There's still a lot of congestion at side streets, but this is part of something that we really want to look at very closely. One last thing is you may have noticed if you've walked the area, DOT in recent weeks has put down some new material. It's kind of a sandy textured light colored material, which had the intention of perhaps being less reflective, bringing the temperature down, and perhaps it does to a fraction. Unfortunately, it's not bioswale in any way, so it's not letting water drain properly in any way. And so what we're finding is a lot of the BID guys, the sweepers, having to push the puddles to the drainage, and in the process of doing that, they're already pushing a lot of this material. So they don't seem to have done very good due diligence on this material. But what they will be bringing in the process is of the large planters, and you see a couple of areas where they actually have gone into the ground, but that's maybe every couple of blocks. But what we're really looking forward to the future is we're recognizing the subways down there and gas lines and everything else, but there is a way to get back to the earth on Broadway. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, David.
Yeah, I think just the way it was broken down on the spreadsheet, to involve DOT in this as well. When we met with them, various times on Broadway Vision, there was, sort of these initial stages. They kind of agreed that, the different designs and different sections of Broadway are a bit of an experiment on what controls traffic better and what orients passengers and drivers and bike riders and so on. And that they were going to collect data on all of that and at some point be ready to talk to us about what did they learn from these first phases of Broadway Vision. So there's that. There was also a discussion of next steps where it becomes more like a shared street. The curb isn't a barrier anymore. Everything is potentially, sidewalk and street are potentially at the same elevation, which is a capital project. But in DOT's view, that was sort of the next generation of Broadway Vision. And then the next generation would be the kind of linear park discussion. So I think if we're going to bring everybody together, they're not necessarily all going to be talking about linear park. I think DOT is going to want to talk about what they're doing and what they see their next steps being. And, the park people will want to talk about, how do you then kind of segue into, that generation. So I think I don't see a dialogue between the park people and DOT on how do we make the park a reality. They're just not up to that yet.
Yeah, the linear park people also have collected a lot of data.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think it would be useful to at least initially bring them in just for a very broad discussion.
Yeah.
And, so we get our feet, fully wet in it and see what our role is.
Yep.
And, what DOT's actual interest is in how we start bringing in all the other necessary agencies.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah, nobody. Oh, Annie is here still, or did Annie go? We don't have a rep.
I'm also on.
Oh, you are.
pedestrian.
I forgot, Neil. Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Guess
so
what? You're the rep today.
Well, so
Pedestrian.
well, I haven't talked to Ankur or Annie, so I'm just going to speak for everyone and say whatever. No, so we haven't spoken yet, but we'll probably have a call sometime in the next few weeks. So before the next
Okay.
PNE meeting. One thing I wanted to add, I was thinking about it for this meeting, is maybe tree planting and trees, which is part of the pedestrian experience. And I know I get Councilman Boxer's communication, and he's big on trees, which I think is really great. And there was I guess an urban forest master plan bill that passed city council last year that says that the city needs to come up with like a 5-year urban forestry plan. So we could track their
What is it?
the-
What's it called? What's it called?
the urban forest master plan. Yeah, and that was a bill that he sponsored. And I don't know which part of the city is going to be working on that, but we can figure that out.
Okay.
And we can probably also play a role in like reviewing where trees are being planted. Or figuring out if there's neighborhoods that need to be added. Maybe there's some barriers to planting trees in particular places.
Have you seen the document of the urban forest master plan? Maybe we can circulate that. You can.
I don't think the plan, I think they passed the bill to say someone else needs to make the plan.
Generate the plan, okay.
But they said that the goal is to expand tree canopy coverage to 30% of the city by some time frame.
Okay.
What city agency would normally be involved with that? DOT? I may have some naive questions because I'm such a newbie, but why is the Department of Transportation involved in parks and things like this besides?
Well, I mean, I think street trees, if it's street trees, if it's parks, but most of the time it's street trees.
Okay.
And then we actually get involved, like whenever there's a street tree, it's a limited license for the use of the sidewalk, and so those have come to us in the past. So usually like as part of a larger development.
I actually wanted to just comment on one thing about that. Doing that research, it might also be worth like looking into either complaints or the practice of how it's actually done, because I've seen some of the construction companies, there's really one construction company that has the contract and they're just completely like do whatever they want and leave giant pits open and things like that. So,
and I know from
just something to, and like driving giant backhoes like down the sidewalk.
And I've seen things like the watering. A few weeks ago, I saw one of the little watering vehicles going down on 6th Ave, which was pretty cool. But I also know from other cities I've lived in and probably here too, there's the planting and then there's the maintenance, the watering and trimming and taking down when it's dead hasn't always been great. So we want to monitor that. From the bill summary, it says this bill would require an agency selected by the mayor in consultation with Department of Parks and Recreation and the mayor's Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability and other relevant government agencies. So maybe Parks and Rec, maybe some other agency that the mayor picks.
Okay.
Yeah, just a question for the audience. One thing that I found is that those blocks that have block associations or building associations or tenants unions, when they take, some involvement in the tree pit, you get a lot more success, keeping it clean, keeping the tree vital, additional plantings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then one thing which is slightly an aside for this was on the street wall. Any plantings that are on the buildings themselves and how that, because that could contribute tremendously to this kind of 30% of tree cover that we want. If we start getting, green spaces on the horizontal spaces, the setbacks, the rooftops, the terraces and more.
And also another opportunity could be, like if there's redevelopment, for example, around Penn Station or Grand Central or the Port Authority. Those are opportunities to.
Yeah, I think
also there are
5 trees were planted. On 33rd.
So they're very visible public spaces. The first things people see when they.
I think they're all still alive.
They are. Okay, so we do have the sheds, daylighting, and I think the sidewalk expansion stuff are kind of current topics. The CB5 street blade naming, that's an internal thing, but one that's like really outdated. But when you guys talk, we have to kind of figure out how to make progress on the things that are
and from last time, it seemed like there are a number of bills relating to the sheds.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we're gonna set up a session, at least, for maybe Josh and Samir and I to meet with the borough president's person who expressed interest in this stuff. And we'll get a sense from them about, where their priorities. But I think Shed the Sheds was a borough president. Okay.
Oh, and just generally, I did want to say thank you and like commend both of you both for coming up with this approach to actually
Yes.
having us do
Yeah.
something. so-
Yeah.
So I thought it was.
I appreciate it. I mean, it was just from having served on the committee for 3 years, it was like painfully obvious.
All committees don't run this way, I guess.
No, it's changed, yeah. Yeah, I
No,
mean,
but
it was
this
obvious, we had
proactive-
the topics,
Yeah.
but bus stops were taking up most
Yeah.
of our time, so.
Right. Right, I think our time is better spent talking about substantive things.
Yeah, I mean, we have an obligation to deal with the bus stop
Right.
stuff, so we just have to figure out how to do that as efficiently as possible,
Right
but yeah,
process,
I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, look,
And when I went to go to pictures, I thought you were gonna put a bus stop, like a shelter.
Oh,
in the
no.
corner. And thinking like, okay, I don't see why they can't put one over here. I didn't realize it's actually someone stopping for a bus.
yeah, it's just a sign and a
It's a
bus.
stick with
Okay,
a whole
was
thing.
was there anything that I missed reading wise? Because you just like, oh, the topics here, I'm thinking like, okay, where did this all come from?
Oh, it was an email that I sent, when I asked everybody, to,
No, I
just,
did see that, but
Oh,
was there a description of like, I don't know what shed is, I have no idea.
oh, shed the shed?
Yeah, was there a description of it somewhere?
Oh, no.
That's what I'm saying, like, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay.
Report.
What,
Yeah.
you wanna know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
No, it's fair enough.
That's fair enough.
Okay.
Fair.
Yeah, definitely. All right, good. And then I'll talk to George. He has done a bunch of work that relates to Penn Station.
Yeah.
Through running and all of that. So
Yeah.
at some point he wanted to, talk through all of this. And there is a lot of stuff starting to happen again on Penn Station.
There is.
Okay,
Yeah.
how about Port Authority, what's happening at Port Authority?
Well, we just, Janice Young and I had been the reps on the Port Authority bus terminal. And Tiffany is now the Transportation Committee rep that takes over what Janice was doing. They kind of split the scope. One seemed to be more kind of community service related. That's what Janice was doing. And the committee I was on was more about kind of the design and construction. I don't know that we picked anybody. Do you remember if we, for my piece, the second rep?
I think Brad is on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
think, yeah,
Right.
I don't think Brad's made those assignments.
Right, so, yeah, so
I
Port Authority bus terminal
responded to
is,
Brad and said I would. I think I responded, I would probably possibly want to be involved in that.
okay,
Good. I don't think he's made those
no,
responses.
we haven't seen it.
Yes.
Right.
And the CV4 has been taking the lead on the bus terminal. It's wholly in their district
district.
and, it's on the edge of our district, so they've been really the lead.
But Penn really is an ongoing concern.
Yeah, so
particularly the
Penn, they,
running and just,
well,
there's a lot of
they're bringing
information
the,
on
they're bringing the advisory group back. It used to be called like the CACWAG or something, and now it's just the SWAG. So,
but there's
yeah.
no swag.
Every time they knew that.
yeah,
So is there a plan for the hotel now? It's, what's going? up
no,
there?
that's Tornado, yeah,
Yeah.
that's separate.
That's- Okay.
That's gonna be pickleball courts for.
Private property.
I mean, I think it's meant to be,
Now the tenants who live around there, they're gonna go nuts.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay, people are complaining about it already, so.
Well,
have you looked through the little windows? Have you walked over there?
I walk
There's
by
like
it every
7
once in a
feet
while.
of structure that's the top
Yeah.
of the Penn Station track area. So you'd have to build whatever it is on top of that
They
and
were
get
supposed
to
to
it.
do, like a US open viewing thing. That was like a big
Yes.
controversy. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it never happened. Like I went by. and
Oh,
was
I
like,
don't think it was supposed to be for this
Oh,
year.
for this year. It's for
No.
next year?
Yeah. So I
Oh,
think-
that's so far away.
Well, I had the same reaction, and then that's when I walked over and looked through the windows. I was like, there's no way they're doing anything this year. So,
Many of us were particularly upset about losing that building, in part because it's architectural value, but also because it was absolutely appropriate for supportive housing. Just the kind of building that easily renovated for that. And if we're not, taking a triage approach to housing and homelessness at that level, it's just all too sad.
so yeah, so there is a new community advisory group, and Brad is gonna sit on that. And I'll switch in and out with him depending on his schedule. So we'll have that. I mean, it's not really on our list right now, but it will be. All right,
Yeah.
no donut, no more donut, pizza.
I ate like a full donut in quarters, 1 quarter at a time, but I did finish.
That's how it works.
But you paced yourself.
Yeah.
All right, thanks,
Motion.
everybody.
To adjourn.
I'll
Thanks,
take,
Joel.
I'll take on
Thanks,
this.
Tiffany.
Good night.
Bye.